Hi, this is Congressman George Miller, and Robert, thank you. And thank you for joining this call. I'm the chair of the House Education and Labor Committee, and have been in the Congress for over 30 years. And I'm pretty well acquainted with the battles we've had in this Congress over trade agreements. And I not only voted against NAFTA in 1994, but I worked very hard against that legislation, and was deeply concerned about the fact that it did not provide adequate protection, certainly foreign protections in terms of the environmental concerns that we had with Mexico, and labor concerns. But most importantly, it really did not provide for a support system for those Americans who were going to lose their jobs as a result of that. And I understand that the supporters of NAFTA believed that was a trade-off that was worth it. I think those American families that were so deeply impacted, that lost their homes, lost their income, lost the ability to finance their kids' education, would disagree with that. But the suggestion now that somehow Hillary Clinton was really an opponent of NAFTA, and that was a well-known fact, and that she spoke out in many audiences, was certainly a mystery to those of us in the Congress at that time, who were working very hard to try and stop this agreement, to certainly get a better agreement, or stop that agreement, because of the weaknesses of that agreement, the failures that it had within it. And I find it rather interesting that we now see with her schedule release that apparently the hard evidence suggests that in a number of instances she spoke in favor of and worked for and lobbied for the passage of NAFTA. And I also find it curious that if she was such a strong opponent of it and spoke out so often about it, why did she never speak to those of us who were principals in that, and that's members of Congress who were going to vote on the matter? And so I don't know what these audiences are that she refers to, but they weren't members of Congress who were struggling with trying to either make this an agreement that was worthy of our support, or to certainly kill it as it was presented to the Congress. And I think I find that very disturbing, to sort of rewrite history at this point. Both of these candidates are very, very talented people, and I don't think we need to pad the resume or inflate the resume in these cases. NAFTA is a very, very serious issue for working families in this country. And as the Congress has continued to, and the administration, the Bush administration, wants to bring now the Colombia Free Trade Agreement before this Congress, we recognize that following NAFTA, there was an absolute failure to provide a support system for those workers and families that needed to be retrained, that had needed the opportunity to go back to school, to provide the income for their families as they lost their jobs. And that's why I'm supporting Barack Obama. He doesn't come, he's not trying to rewrite history coming out of the Beltway after many years, but rather he comes to this with a very hard experience of working in those communities that have been impacted by economic dislocation, understanding the needs of families, understanding the needs of workers, working for, lobbying for, and organizing people so that they could put back together their economic households, put back together the support systems for their family. And that's a far different record than an individual who is now trying to rewrite and essentially try to have it both ways, suggesting that somehow in front of some audiences she was opposed to NAFTA, and yet we don't see anything on the public record to suggest that at all. And certainly those of us who were struggling with the Clinton administration, with the inadequacy of that legislation and the harm that we felt it would do, and it turned out that it did do to so many workers and their families, we saw no evidence of that activity or that position by Hillary Clinton. And I just wanted to make that very clear as one who continues to deal with the legacy of NAFTA on working families in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman. Katie, we'll open it up to a few questions.
Thank you. Today's question and answer session will be held electronically. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1 on your touch-tone telephone. Also, please deactivate any mute function prior to signaling to be sure your signal can reach our equipment. Once again, that is *1 to signal for a question. A voice prompt on your phone line will indicate when the line is open. That you please state your name and your media outlet prior to posing your question. And we'll take our first question
Yes, good afternoon. It's John Ibbotson from the Globe and Mail of Canada. Congressman, could you please detail what environmental or labor practices that the Canadian government pursues that you find objectionable?
I was speaking with respect to Mexico. That it was deeply concerned at that time of environmental practices on the border, where you had the maquiladoras starting to come north, individuals coming north, plants without sewer facilities, without water facilities, and eventually we ended up spending millions and millions of dollars to try and correct, but it was done many years after it should have been done, and it should have been not a side agreement. It should have been an integral part. As we now see, we're trying to incorporate in new trade agreements to make sure that we don't subsidize companies with bad environmental laws, where we make an effort to clean up the environment, strict regulation, and then you can move to Mexico and at that time not be concerned about clean water, clean air, disposal of toxic waste, and those problems are legend on the border and have been now for 2 decades.
And we'll take our next question.
Yeah, hi, it's Tommy Christopher from AOL News. And my question is, there's all this controversy about the meetings with the Canadian government and saying that your anti-NAFTA statements were political positioning, but couldn't that be characterized as just smart negotiating? In other words, if you're going to come out and say you're going to modify NAFTA, wouldn't it make sense to assure your negotiating partner that you're not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater?
Well, we've even in the statements that we've made, nobody suggested throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We've talked about amending a deal to make sure that it includes strong labor and environmental protections, and I think everybody has acknowledged that what was reported on this was simply not the case, all the way up to the Prime Minister of Canada. That the descriptions of these meetings as they were originally reported simply weren't true.
And we'll take our next question.
Hi, it's Domenico Montanaro with NBC. Just wanted to see, can we confirm with you All Times reporting that you've raised $30 million this month?
We have not finished an accounting. I don't know honestly where Time got that number. I don't think it's accurate. Only 2 people in the campaign know that number: the campaign manager and our finance director. And we hope to provide a number tomorrow.
And we'll take our next question.
Yes, thank you. Rodney Livingston at the SPNN.net television network here in Washington, D.C. Representative Miller, if you could tell us a little bit about Senator Obama's thoughts on the reports of the dropout rate, and couch that in the ability for some of the students, if they had access to the Internet, free access to the Internet, as well as free computers, may be able to bypass that dropout, as well as the high cost of college tuition for the state schools. Those students may be able to bypass and receive the education via the Internet. And also,
excuse me, just a second. Give me the third part there. I got the first 2 parts. Okay, you said the high cost.
Yeah, the state schools have a high cost. The cost is going up. So some students may be able to bypass Pell Grants and all those things. They may be able to bypass that if they can get access to free computers and free Internet. And then there's a NAFTA quotient in that for retraining that the workers may be able to also, if they have access to the Internet for free at home and computers free at home, they may be able to be retrained inexpensively via the NAFTA quotient. So there's the dropout rate and bypassing that with the Internet and free computers, and then state schools and bypassing that with the Internet, and then NAFTA training, and then the retraining via the Internet, free computers and stuff. What are Senator Obama's thoughts on those, if you will?
Well, I think he shares the concerns that I have, and that the Black Caucus in the House of Representatives have been working on this dropout rate. We've put in the redraft of No Child Left Behind, we're deeply concerned about what we call dropout factories, where you have about 1,500 high schools that produce almost 50% of the dropouts in this country. Under existing law, those high schools can appear to be doing well under current federal regulations, and they can lose 30 to 40% of their students over those 4 years. What we think that requires is, first of all, you got to have a standard of what do you mean by graduation. Too many states, too many school districts game that system, so they're not accountable for all of the students that enter the high school at the ninth grade level. Your questions on technology, absolutely. The greater use that we can make of technology to engage these students, to give them a much richer curriculum, a much more dynamic curriculum that many of them are receiving in the schools, is absolutely necessary. I think Senator Obama has said on a number of times, our status in the world in presenting broadband across our economy, whether it's our schools, whether it's retraining programs, whether it's our rural communities, is just disgraceful, and it is limiting our ability to really tie in a rich educational experience for our students in high school and elementary school, and clearly in terms of retraining, you are not able to take advantage of a lot of opportunities for workers because of their geographic location. But more importantly than that, today, and this is why this NAFTA question and Senator Clinton's support for NAFTA is important, because the fact is that when we review the trade assistance program that was part of NAFTA, that was told that this would help workers, we see that about 9% of the workers who are eligible ever end up benefiting from the health care aspects of it, from the job retraining, from the education components of the trade assistance. It's been a disaster for American workers and families, and that's why the opposition to NAFTA was so strong. Unfortunately, we did not prevail against the Clinton administration, but we could have used more. If in fact she ever spoke out against it, it would have been nice if it had been public.
And if I can just build on that, speaking out against NAFTA, for all the people on this call that have either heard or read of the Senator Clinton's statements yesterday at the Pennsylvania AFL-CIO, she was pretty vociferous about the fact that she'd spoken out on a number of occasions since 1992. The White House schedules certainly don't bear that out. There was reported yesterday a meeting in the campaign in 1992 in which she did not say anything during the meeting. On supposedly speaking out against NAFTA, the American people deserve to know. What did she say and when did she say it? I think that's a simple question that the campaign should be able to answer, given the statement that Senator Clinton made yesterday.
And we'll take our next question.
Hi, this is Greg Coy from the Comcast News Network. Was wondering, as you're listening to your logic about her speaking out against NAFTA, she has said before that, look, the president makes his decision and you support the president. Isn't that how most legislative issues are done in Washington, when you support the president of your party when he agrees with something that may be controversial, even if you have objections in private?
Well, the suggestion is that somehow this was known and that somehow this speaking out was an integral part of the debate. No, I guess it was her private thoughts and private communications or something, but to now she's trying to leverage that into the somehow this was opposition that you would be aware of, that was in, I think she said, in many different audiences. So she kind of have it a little bit both ways. Apparently she was a good soldier and going along with the president, but yet she spoke out, and that proves that she was really opposed to NAFTA. Except so far I haven't been able to quite find that on the hard record of evidence.
And we'll take our next question.
Yes, this is Tammy Lytle from the Orlando Sentinel. Just wanted to ask you about the statement put out by Howard Dean and the Florida delegation pledging to seat the Florida delegation and saying that it's up to the two campaigns to agree to a way to do that. Do you feel like there's any possibility that that's going to happen? And what do you think is the next step in this process?
Well, I know that our campaign has had conversations with the Democratic parties in both Florida and Michigan. Obviously, it's always been our goal to seat the delegations. We think what Chairman Dean said today is very consistent with what we'd like to see happen. Our campaign has talked to the state parties in both states in order to try to provide a way to figure out exactly how to split those delegates up.
And we'll take our next question. Caller, your line is open. If you could check your mute function.
Your line is open.
Hello, Congressman Miller.
Yes.
Yes, hi, this is Eric Kleefeld with Talking Points Memo. How are you?
Good.
I was wondering if you had any comment on our story that Harold Ickes has been talking to uncommitted superdelegates about the Jeremiah Wright story?
Well, I think that's very unfortunate if that's the tack that they want to take.
Your line is now muted.
People who viewed Senator Obama's speech found that to be credible, exciting speech on possibilities, race relations, very candid discussion of his relationship with Mr. Reverend Wright. They can continue that tack if they think that's going to help them. But I think my discussion with certainly the superdelegates inside the Congress of the United States, that's not getting you any traction. In fact, I think they find it offensive. And but that's, every campaign makes their choices. They want to work the low road. They're welcome to it. But I don't think it's going to turn many people in their favor.
Katie, we've got time for one more.
And we'll take our next question.
Hi, this is Charlie McLeary with Inside Edition. This question is for Mr. Gibbs. I was wondering, until today, Mrs. Obama seems to have been absent from the campaign trail for a while. I was wondering why is that, and does this mean we'll be seeing more of her?
She was absent because the girls were on spring break last week, and she's in Pittsburgh today, and she'll be campaigning throughout the rest of the process. But she was down a little bit because Sasha and Malia had some time off from school.
Thanks, everybody, for joining the call today. If there are additional questions, feel free to give us a call here at the campaign headquarters. The press office number is 312-819-2423. Congressman Miller, Robert Gibbs, thank you both.
Thank you.